let us not mince words about, and perhaps let's kick the show off right now, talking about Bray Wyatt and Randy Orton in the House of Horrors match. Graham, before I give you my impressions, give me your full thoughts. What did you think about the House of Horrors?
For what this was, I thoroughly enjoyed this. I feel like, and we talked about this off the air a couple of days ago, but I feel like you're either in two camps. You either really, really like this or you really hated it. But you might have to be a campy horror movie fan in order to enjoy House of Horrors. But I thought this was really, really good. I thought both guys brought a lot to the table, no pun intended, with the fridge and the baby dolls and everything else. It was campy as hell. It was just over the top, but in the best possible way. I thought it was awesome.
And this is very reflective of Bray Wyatt's powers. He certainly has not been able to command the dark forces, if you will, in the same way that Undertaker or Kane have commanded those forces in the past. Bray Wyatt's powers seem to be more based on cheap parlor tricks and trickery than necessarily conjuring any type of occult forces in his favor. He did come out with a win, but Randy Orton appeared out of nowhere, seemingly having more cosmic or occult powers than Bray Wyatt himself, who had to take a limo from venue to venue. Now, I thought the House of Horrors match, from the second Randy Orton appeared shirtless in the back of a limo to the time he stepped out of that limo and uttered the famous phrase, the phrase that will go down in the annals of WWE history, a phrase that will be chanted and repeated forever, a very simple, what the hell? It was
classic Randy, vintage Randy
just
Orton.
Vintage Randy Orton on display, and the second that he entered the House of Horrors, those living rooms did not stand a chance.
Nor did those dirty dishes.
Those dirty dishes, that old, mercury-laden fridge, everything that was going on. I mean, there was asbestos in this house. That was really the horror of this, was the fact that the roof needed to be replaced. The windows had a heck of a breeze coming in, so that, all kinds of caulking was needed to seal that up. I mean, it's a real House of Horrors. And just for your information, fellow listeners, you can be the new owner of said House of Horrors, which is on sale right now for a paltry sum of $36,000, and that can be all yours and more if you want to live on Highway 10 in Missouri, Kansas City. Absolutely unbelievable House of Horrors segment for Payback. But talk to me a little bit more specifically about what you thought when the match didn't immediately conclude following Bray Wyatt's departure from the House of Horrors. There was a significant amount of time between Bray Wyatt leaving the House of Horrors and the conclusion of that match. How did you feel about that strategy?
I'm going to be honest with you. I thought it interrupted the flow of the match quite a bit. I mean, to go from... It was an interesting way of doing it. It reminded me of when we saw Dean Ambrose and Luke Harper in a Falls Count Anywhere match a couple of years ago in Chicago. I think at Payback or Extreme Rules. I think it was Extreme Rules. We saw them drive out of the arena and then come back like an hour or two later or whatever it was. And it kind of interrupted the match a bit, and then we only saw a little bit of it back in the ring, back in the arena about a half hour later. So it was a bit weird. I'm sure it was kind of bothersome for the live audience to not witness the House of Horrors live. They were kind of watching it on the screen along with the rest of us at home. So that was a bit odd, but it did end up back in the ring, as you had said. Orton coming out of nowhere, inexplicably just surviving the fridge shot, which was odd. Maybe he took a pretty quick Uber to the arena. I'm not exactly sure. It was still dark out at 6:30 in California, but again, I enjoyed every minute of it.
Yeah, for me, I believe that if you watch the footage closely, Bray Wyatt may have been convinced, and perhaps Randy Orton wanted Bray Wyatt to be convinced that fridge actually did land on him. If you watch closely, you can see it gets hung up on the stove. Just a little bit. So while Randy Orton may have appeared to have been crushed, it seems that there was just enough room for him to stay perfectly intact, because when he appeared in the ring out of nowhere, he was as healthy as can be, only to be completely chopped down by the Singh brothers and Jinder Mahal, who came out and attacked him with the word of the day, ladies and gentlemen. If you hear this word, you have to scream absconded. The absconded title that Jinder Mahal stole from Randy Orton this past about a week and a half ago at this point. So that came to fruition a little bit this week on SmackDown Live, but not exactly a win for Bray Wyatt either. Bray Wyatt's wins tend to be marred with interruptions. What do you feel about Bray Wyatt in the win column for this match?
Quite honestly, I mean, I'm glad he won. I don't want to complain and say, oh, Wyatt won in this fashion, which is true. I think we should address both parts of it, but he was pretty much the afterthought here. I mean, I think the focus was on Orton getting taken out by Mahal, and the focus being on that feud going into Backlash. That's great for that feud for SmackDown Live, but this is a Raw pay-per-view at the end of the day. Bray Wyatt is a Raw superstar, and now he heads into a feud with Finn Balor, presumably on Raw, which is great, fresh feud. I'm going to enjoy that, I'm sure, but it doesn't exactly give Wyatt that momentum boost that he desperately needed.